Everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about books that have great concepts but bad execution. Like, I don't feel like the book lived up to its potential. I'm definitely a reader that tends to forgive certain things, like if the characters are not super well developed, or if the writing style isn't the prettiest, as long as the concept is super interesting. But I know it's not the case for everyone, but I feel like these books, it's just, I expected better. I wanted better because they could have, like, there was so much potential. I feel like sometimes I will forgive it. Like, I feel like Blake Crouch as an author is a perfect example of this. His concepts are super interesting. His books are things that you can't put down, but they read like a movie, so not the prettiest writing style, and the characters are definitely not super well developed. But I excuse them. I excuse these things because I find them super interesting enough to compensate, but not for these books. Let's start with Inhalation. The concepts seem interesting. You're following a team of women who go into this place, like Area X, where they have to figure out what's going on. I think it's aliens. It's not really explained in the first book, so I don't think it's it's a spoiler. I've only read the first book in the trilogy. And I like the concept because the characters are not even given a name because it doesn't matter. They're just called by like their function, like the biologist in the team. And they're trying to explore and figure out what's going on because this area is growing. And obviously that's kind of weird because everyone that goes there ends up dying. So things are weird. And you're following that team as they go there, and things are super creepy. It definitely made it to my weirdest books that I've ever read because it definitely has some creepy scene, like specifically the one where she's going down the tower. That's one of the only times in a book that I've felt physically uncomfortable. So if that's something you enjoy, but unfortunately, I just found myself confused like too much. Like I understand that aliens will feel alien, but like it lost my interest. I just was too confused and I wasn't satisfied with the ending. So an interesting concept, but like the execution or overall the book was not super great for me personally. Next one is The Last Policeman. Okay, I used to be a huge fan of post-apocalyptic books, a little less just before the pandemic. It wasn't because of the pandemic, but just before I kind of lost interest a little bit. And this one, the concept is really interesting. You're following humanity as there is 6 months left for us to live because there is an asteroid that's going to come and hit the planet. We can't do anything to fix it. It's just going to happen. And you're following the last policeman, basically a man who's trying to figure out what happened because there's been a murder. He thinks it's a murder, but the policemen are just saying it's suicide and they're just trying to move on and, live their last 6 months. And he really wants to figure it out. So again, very interesting concept, something that I really wanted to read. And I did read the whole trilogy. And the first book wasn't bad, but I found that overall the trilogy was disappointing because it just goes in a weird direction and I was not satisfied by the last two books. So overall, interesting. Definitely would pick it up if that's something that you want to read about, but unfortunately for me, it didn't live up to my expectations or the potential. I am a huge fan of time loops. I will read them all, and In a Holidays, although I did go into it with low expectation, was still overall a pretty bad book, but so much potential. You follow this woman who goes every year with her family in a cottage, and there's family friends that go every year, and she keeps reliving the same like week or couple of days during the holidays, and there's like a romance in there. And I feel like the beginning, I'm not even a big romance person. I'm definitely not a big romance person, but like the beginning had potential to be like a really fun holiday read. But it just fell down like towards like the middle. It just meh. The whole like sci-fi bit, which was the part that was interesting to me, just completely disappeared and it just went in a different direction that I wanted. So overall kind of disappointed by it. But yes, if you're looking for a great read for the winter, for like the holidays, it's not bad. It's just that it could have been so much better. There could have been so much more that happened with that topic. Let's talk about Bird Box. I know a lot of people have seen the movie, not necessarily the book. They're quite similar. Personally, I think that the movie did it better than the book, which I feel like a lot of people hated the movie. I didn't. It was fine. But I didn't mind that the main character was unlikable. I thought it was a fascinating concept that, once again, like, is it alien? What's going on? You can't look outside. If you look outside, you will go crazy, kill people, kill yourself. Like, post-apocalyptic. Big fan of that. But, that sounds creepy. But, like, it was interesting. My issue was in the book, and it will be a spoiler. If you don't want to know, please fast forward until there's no more spoiler on the screen. It's only gonna last a few seconds. But My issue with it is that in the book, it's just unexplained. I hate open endings. And I have read book 2, but like I'm just gonna leave it to book 1 because it was supposed to be a standalone. I refuse to acknowledge the second book. But I hate open endings. So if you're going to not tell me if is it ghosts, is it supernatural, is it aliens, I will resent you because it's your job as an author to actually finish your book. And if you're leaving it open to make it mysterious and like finish it, myself in my head, no, do your job. So I really don't like open endings. So yes, in that one, I was disappointed because of that. I would have preferred the author just finish it in any way, shape, or form, which is probably what happened with book 2, but I'm not happy with book 2. So I sound very difficult in this video, but like all of these concepts sounded so interesting to me. They were definitely something that made me want to read the book. Even if some of these I hadn't heard like the best reviews, I was still super intrigued, hence reading them anyway. But yeah, didn't live up to my expectations. This one, the book isn't horrible, but I was also disappointed. The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. I think Patrick Ness is a really great author. He writes a ton of YA kind of contemporary-ish, like coming of age. And I think he does it really well. His writing style just works for me and for a lot of other people. With that one, the concept, again, super interesting. You're following the rest of us. So there is an adventure with like a chosen one kind of thing in this small town. And then you're following the normal people that have to live with the consequences of everything that happens to the chosen one. So if he destroys the town, they're stuck with a broken, like a ruined town. And again, is that not fun? It's so unique. But again, spoiler, move ahead if you don't want to hear it. Unfortunately, he couldn't help himself and made some of one special. That ruins the whole purpose. Like you can't give whatever power to some of them. They're supposed to be the rest, the normal ones. Isn't that weird? I don't know if anyone else was annoyed by it, but like I feel like it just ruined my enjoyment. Unfortunately, like I understand that like normal people are kind of boring in these kind of books, but like that was the point of the book. So yeah, kind of just a fail for me. The Chain, which I was looking for a great thriller, something you can't put down. And it's not the most unique concept, but it's still interesting enough. Basically, this woman, her kid is kidnapped and she has to pay money and then kidnap another kid to continue the chain. And that was fun. I feel like the first third of the book was great, a ton of potential, but the author decided to like take a bite bigger than they could chew, and it became too much. It became like a huge movie. It's very like relatable and like possible-ish, and then it became something huge that just couldn't be wrapped up properly towards the end, and it left me just unsatisfied. So fun concept, definitely like terrifying to think about, but the execution was kind of meh for me. Then we have Magic for Liars. I am a huge fan of magical schools. I will read pretty much anything that has that premise. And you're following this woman who doesn't have any magical powers, but her sister does. And she is a teacher at that school. And then there's been a murder and she goes to investigate. I feel like I kind of forgot some of it because I was so disappointed. I can't remember if her sister was the one that died or like, it doesn't matter, frankly. It was, again, interesting concept, following the normal person that investigate, people with the magic, exploring the magic system. But unfortunately, it felt really flat. Every single character except like one were unlikable, like really unlikable. And I don't mind unlikable characters, but like it's really hard to root for any of them in that situation. I feel like we didn't really explore much of the magic system, and like the like mystery wasn't that good either. And it just ended up like falling so flat for me. So yes, I don't think the reviews were really positive in general, but when I saw what the book was about, I was so excited to pick it up. I was one of the first one to read it, when it was available at my library. But no, I haven't been able to recommend it. And look at that cover. That's like super intense. It's like eye-catching, but don't do it. And last but not least, I wanted to talk about The Witches of Lynch, which is a super short novella. It's like 100 pages. And you're following like witches in modern time, which if you have any recommendations, please give me some, because like it kind of gave me vibe in the beginning, the idea of it, to like practical magic, which yes, please, I want more of that. Unfortunately, I really didn't care about the main character and like her story, like basically like the evil, like think Walmart Corporation ruining the little town, and like maybe they're like demons, or like it just was not good. And what annoyed me the most was that there is a side character, an older witch, who seems so interesting, and I wanted so badly the story to be about her, and nope, it wasn't. And I was so annoyed and so hopeful that I picked up book 2. I think there are 5 books in total. And again, very short, but it wasn't about her either. So I was so sad and disappointed. So if the author ever sees this, I'm sorry, but please make it all about this side witch, like the old witch. Because there's just a few little allusion to her like childhood or like teenage years. And I'm like, yes, I want to read about that because that sounds way more interesting than whatever is happening. So yes, kind of disappointing because again, I think the concept of witches in our modern time is interesting, but that's not what this book turned out to be about. And like whatever happened was not super interesting. So yeah, these are kind of a few books that to me sounded super interesting and that unfortunately it just didn't end up living up to my own expectations, I guess. Or like the concept was interesting, but the execution was kind of meh. I would be curious to hear some of yours because obviously the reasons I didn't like a book might be reasons that you think sounds amazing and you want to pick it up. Although I think I'm pretty forgiving usually with the good concepts as long as there's enough to like make it good. Like if the concept is interesting, I'll forgive, like I said, characters that aren't super well or maybe like the world building is not super well developed. Like, but I just want something. There has to be something that is good enough to push me through the whole book, you know? So that's gonna be it. I thought it would be a fun little video to talk about interesting concepts because just because the concept wasn't well executed in one doesn't mean it can't be in a different one. So if there are any of these concepts that you would like me to do a full video on, like giving you good recommendations, please let me know in the comment section and I will be doing that. I'm actually planning on doing a video very soon about some of the bad tropes but like good executions of it. So I kind of tricked you there asking you what were your like least favorite tropes so I could do this video. Thumbs up, subscribe. I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out and I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Bye.